Hello everybody, welcome back to the Core Premier Series. We're here at round number 16 here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway with the spec racers, and I'm getting my own voice in there. I'm sorry. But welcome back. We're here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway here for a 1 hour race here with the spec racers here tonight. We got 12 drivers on track and ready to go here to get started here for, again, this 1 hour feature event. I'm your host, Brendan Polton, the co-host being David Tilford again tonight. And actually, it's a standing start. I was not aware of this. They're gone. Yeah, we hop straight in.
Yeah, here we go, Brendan. We're off to a start, and Jacob Grube got the pole, and he's out front in front of Christopher Hamilton. John Nobinger in third, followed by Carl Handwerk as they go through turn 2. Headed through the infield here on this short little road course, and back onto the NASCAR Oval.
And this is certainly a different line that not cameras aren't really expecting for. As you see here, as they came out of the infield, they ran the apron coming around NASCAR 3 and 4, which actually, luckily, at least for the actual track turn, is 3 and 4 as far as the road course is concerned. So luckily that at least lines up. Gonna take a look ahead here. Hamilton and Grube are side by side coming through turn 6. With John Nobinger to the outside.
This is a tough entry onto the infield. Oh my goodness.
4 wide. Hamilton backs out to make it 2 wide now with Grube and Nobinger. And Handwerk's going to send it in. Foster almost sent it too deep. Y'all saw how tight that corner was, though. And they almost went into it 4 wide.
That was impressive. The guys, Hamilton especially, getting out of it feeling a little bit wiser than his opponents, maybe. Just not wanting any trouble. And, we got Matt Crockett off the track. And John Nobinger also keeping it wide on the outside through that whole thing and kind of missing out on position, but staying safe.
Indeed. So, I mean, you definitely got to think about it. Again, we got 1 hour here to go. But also, something with how this track and car combo works, the draft is huge. Even though Grube looks like he's a half second ahead, Handwerk and Nobinger and that draft pack behind them is going to close up most likely by the time they get to the hairpin area coming down the NASCAR back, as this is technically the back straight, even though it's the NASCAR front. I'm still getting used to it, don't worry. But Handwerk peeking on the outside. Hamilton looks like he's going to go with, but he looks like he wants a middle lane, but no lanes there. So far, 3 on the inside, 1 up top. Nobinger's going to give a bump. Too big of a bump. What a save by the 64.
Wow, this is going to be interesting all night long here, coming off of the NASCAR Oval and back onto the infield. It is a tight turn, and they're going to be all bunched up with that draft.
Oh, indeed so. And then also the more traps going to be huge. Yep, we got Covert around. Looks like it's just him. No other damage sustained for other cars, and maybe just for Covert, a little bit of soul missing from that one. But he's gonna keep that car clean. We're gonna keep it green, even though as core rules are underneath for the Premier Series, there would be no cautions, just like it is in iRacing. I don't know about if you have to call a tow. Not sure about that rule, but.
No, I don't believe there'll be any cautions tonight, any full course yellows.
We could throw one in there to spice things up. I mean, who was against cautions outside the leader? Big
Hamilton and Handwerk, yeah, latched onto each other. Jacob Grube making a little bit of gap here, as he's got about a second, but that is closing with these 2 cars working together.
A little bit further on back is Foster and Nobinger running their own little 2-car tandem. They're not going to get to the leader coming through turn 7, but Handwerk, I don't think he's going to make it either. But if this was final lap, there probably could have been a send there, but that would be a little deep. But it's not final lap, so.
Yeah, I think at this point, Chris is just saying, hey, let's work together. I'm not pressuring you. Let's just get back up to the back of Jacob Grube and keep this lead pack out in front.
So far, fastest lap last time by is a 123.1 set by our leader, Jacob Grube.
Well, yeah, self-spinning there in the back. It looked like Kevin Foster.
I can click on it. Yes, it is. Unfortunately, it is Foster. Gonna click on him in time, and now Handwerk onto the inside of the 95, coming through turn 3. Handwerk on the outside. Not gonna have the third line, but he's so much closer now. A little bit of a line mishap there from Handwork, but that puts the 64 now in striking distance of that 95. And Handwork may still be in that draft too.
Here we come back onto the NASCAR track and in a side-by-side with Hamilton and Grube. And let's see how quickly Handwork can catch from behind. He may have just a little bit too much gap to be getting too much of a draft, but it does look like he's slowly catching.
He definitely is catching, can make it 3 wide, coming into 7 if he wishes, but I don't think that's the right move. Gonna take a peek in that middle, not gonna go for it. Definitely gonna force Hamilton to check up a little bit and kind of not exactly hesitate, but doesn't seem to be working on him so far, as Hamilton is a new race leader.
And this looks like it's going to be swapping around all night at this pace. The amount of time that it can be made up in the draft on the NASCAR track is kind of ludicrous. I mean, probably a second to a second and a half made up if you're in the draft on the NASCAR part of the track.
And something to note that before the camera came off of Hamilton there for a second, he pulled an IndyCar and went to the non-preferable lane, trying to break draft, which shows even for the front straight that such short straight, the draft matters for these kinds of cars. They're pretty well, not exactly the greatest aerodynamic cars. They don't have much grip, but they could definitely punch a hole in the air that the drafts definitely utilize. As look at Handwork. Look at the run Handwork is getting. He's going to go to the outside of the 95, may end up getting to the outside of the 64. And it looks like he does, but he's got no help on that outside lane. Groove now clear. He can pick what lane he wants to go. He's going to stick on that inside. Going to try to take a look at the middle. Here comes Nobinger. He took a peek. Going to think better of it, though. 64 and the AT side by side coming to 7. Oh, and Hamilton catches the tires.
That is really unfortunate there from Chris Hamilton. He just misjudged that.
He manages to play the right move and just get it there, as that takes it from P1 to P11. As we're going to take a look on that replay here, we're going to go roll bar. We're coming into turn 7, side by side with Handwork on the outside lane. It looks like he descends the apex too much and clips the right rear on the tire. Then this, as he's trying to get himself, he can't get it turned, stops on the racing line. Luckily manages to just pull it forward and understand that's where you should probably end up. As truly unfortunate for that number 64 machine, as that's pretty much his race almost done, considering there's no cautions. Yeah, he's coming in a pit road. Whether or not that's the fixed tires or fixed damage or call it done.
Yeah, he might have some wheel damage on that back left that he needs to take care of. I'm not sure what the fuel situation is here tonight. If he will be able to take it in from here. I mean, we're only 8 minutes into the race, into the 1 hour race, so that is really unfortunate for Chris Hamilton catching that tire.
Nobinger sending it to the inside. Not gonna think of it though.
He's probably not the only one that's going to fall victim to that tire that really sticks out on that tough entry, especially with all the side-by-side we're seeing going back onto the infield.
Looks like he is immediately back out, so he must have taken a fast repair and then any other fuel or tires he may need, if any at all. But look at the gap that Handwork's managed to pull, about 0.8 of a gap. Still, that may look big here on the road cars, but when you get to that NASCAR section, as long as Nobinger and Groove work together, that will turn into a 100th gap real quick.
Yeah, this is no problem. As long as he doesn't get out to, that 2 second gap to break the draft, I think second place is always going to be able to catch right back up.
So considering Nobinger has about an 0.8 gap to Groove, them two just hooked up and they'll be fine. And actually, Groove actually looks like he's increasing and pulling Nobinger with him just based off looking at these intervals. As Nobinger's interval hasn't really changed to Groove, but Groove's has changed a lot to Handwork.
Yeah, he's made up that whole 0.8 on the NASCAR part of the track.
And Nobinger did not follow Groove, so Nobinger now with the second gap. between himself and the number 95.
Well, Chris Hamilton already does have a win in these playoffs, so he will not have to worry about moving on to the next round. He will be safe, but will deprive himself of the ability to get more bonus points in the next round of the playoffs with another win here tonight. As some of these other guys, Carl Hamwork with the win last week, he'll be looking to double it up and take his advantage into the next round.
We're going to look a little bit further on back. Next closest battle outside of our leaders is here with Sullivan and Mettler here for P5. They're just coming through turn 1 now. As looking on that track map, leaders are just going through NASCAR 3. This shows the gap that they have managed to accumulated. As there's a little bit of a draft pack here that could definitely be formed into something if they get together. But honestly, I don't know their fuel situation either, so we'll see if they hit here sometime soon or anything like that. But I'm not exactly sure, as we have one off. Yeah, Phelps there in turn 1. He's going to get that rolling here real quick. As going back to our top 3, it is one car length separating each other.
Yeah, these top 3 have really broken free from the rest of the field. Over 10 seconds, now 11 seconds back to Jimmy Covert from John Nobinger. Covert did have that little spin, but just not quite the pace to keep up with these top 3 as they're drafting each other as well.
Actually, side note, looking at the lap times, Christopher Hamilton just set a race best at a 1:22.5, running solo. It was, I believe, that was a solo lap. It means no draft assisted there, and he set a faster lap than draft lap. So that just shows that Hamilton is trying to close that gap as much as he can, trying at least have it less for when pit stops roll around.
Absolutely. I mean, I think he's probably able to push a little bit more with those tires cooled off from the pit stop at the very least. I don't know if he took right sides or anything like that, but able to push that car to a very quick time. We'll see if he's able to continue to do that and gain some positions here.
Looking on the track map, he is closing the Dan Phelps as we speak now, within a second and a half between there. So he'll at least get P11. And maybe anything more based off, and Dan Phelps actually in pit road. So Hamilton now goes up to P11. Does that start signaling to the other drivers, it is time to pit? As Phelps came in, and Phelps had a couple spins too, so we'll see if that's just damage related. But does that signal to our leaders and pretty much everybody else, is it time to pit? If that's the case, we're here for a pit stop riddled race.
Yeah, I don't know that that's a pit stop that was needed based on fuel. That seems awful early. I'll have to look up what percentage fuel these guys have, but these things will go for a long time on a full tank of fuel.
Last I checked, it was about 20-ish laps. And also, yeah, that's pit road exit. Shoot you straight out onto the racing line, which definitely isn't the greatest thing. And Dan Phelps put on tires because that car is understeery.
Yeah, these cars definitely take a little bit to warm up the tires, and until then, they will push. So Dan Phelps feeling that through that turn coming out of the exit of pit lane.
Mettler, he made a mistake coming out of... coming out of 2. That threw him in the gravel. That's going to give Sullivan the P5. So positions changing here for P4 a little bit further on back from our top 3. It looks like our top 3 has at least managed to understand that there's still a long race and they don't want to wreck each other. As Mettler to the outside of that number 76. Big run here coming through NASCAR 2. Run seems to die, and Sullivan's going to go with the 15. And that's not Sullivan. That's Caleb Collins. 15 has the spot. And Sullivan loses it at 7.22. And Mettler, not sure what happened there. Caleb Collins grabs the tire. They're going to be racing right out of this, as they're immediately bumper to bumper again. It looks like Mettler backs off, so we're going to take a look to see what happened, because I'm not exactly sure what happened to Mettler coming to 7.
Did he get a bump on the entry here? Maybe?
No,
it doesn't look like it. He's just pushing hard, trying to stay in front, and he is Quick catch just to not get the whole car right into that tire wall, but gets it turned right back around and comes out behind Collins.
Nobinger, actually. I mentioned earlier, Nobinger was out that second point, so it looked like that was going to be harder for him to get up there, and now here we are, top three separated by 3/10, which is actually saving a lot of fuel for that number 44. He can lift a little bit more than Handwork can and save fuel, which may, at the end of this, may just knock out a whole pit stop entirely.
Yes, now that they don't have Christopher Hamilton up in this pack, they have, not that Hamilton was pushing him to battle, but certainly they were fighting to stay up with Hamilton. And this pack has kind of settled into maybe a fuel save race. They have not swapped positions for the last few laps.
Groob with a little bit of a mistake. That's going to grow that gap to 6/10. Sorry for the cutoff, but it looked like Groob almost started losing that car, but he managed to save that.
Yep, and keeping it within that second gap, so he'll get the draft and bring this pack right back together.
A little bit further on back for that P5 fight. It looks like as we were focusing on the leaders, Mettler got back around that 72, but now does the 72 start becoming a little bit more aggressive? I mean, you might as well, considering that they are trying to fight for P5. Unfortunately, really, those winning hopes kind of dashed right now. Not completely gone, because we still got 40 minutes left in this race, but the hope's not the highest for P5 on back, so does Caleb Collins start fighting really hard for this P5 spot.
Yeah, Caleb Collins on the outside looking in as far as a playoff battle. He will need an excellent finish tonight, and I don't think where he is currently is going to do that, so he's looking to do his best to get past Mettler.
As they gave Mettler almost a little bit of a bump going into this corner, trying to pressurize him to the same mistake he did earlier. And the only thing that didn't work out in Caleb Collins' favor with that accident with Mettler is that Caleb also sent it too hard going into the same corner and tagged the tires a little bit. As Jimmy Cover is now in the pit road, and Caleb Collins, I think he just ran wide. I do not see an off track, but that gap has now increased dramatically. So unfortunate for Caleb, as that makes that P5 fight just a little bit harder.
Yeah, you could just put a camera on that tire wall on the entry back onto the infield and watch that all night. I think that's where most of the action here tonight is going to be, as these guys bunch it up on the NASCAR part of the track, and then try to figure out a way to send it through there without losing control, and at the same time getting by their opponents.
Running on board here with Nobinger, you could just hear him lifting so much earlier into a corner, because the draft will just pull you back in. You lift to about 3/4 throttle, the fuel and the draft at least maintains you, which is definitely something, a little bit of strategy that Carl Handwork is not getting right now. We'll see.
Nice little view here as you watch him go through the middle of the infield. And a tough left-hander here to get the braking right. These cars are a little bit touchy on the brakes. They keep control of it. Nobinger keeping tight to the wall at first here, coming back onto the NASCAR oval, and then they will come out a little bit wider onto the apron, avoiding the NASCAR pit entry.
Yeah, before anybody asked in the chat, Hamilton was our test dummy for that when practice was rolling. You do get I believe it was a black flag, not a slowdown. You got a cut in the course penalty, because I think there's a timing line on the NASCAR start finish. And obviously you miss that going into using the pit road, so you get a black flag for cutting the course. It was not just a slowdown. You could serve strategically. You gotta go into the pit, so run on iRacing to knock that out before it even started, but unfortunate that we don't get that chance for a last lap pass in the pits.
Little joker lap there.
Yeah. That'd be a fun little fun race. Just like Joker lap must like just put the rally cars on here. Have a Joker lap being a NASCAR pit road.
Yeah, this track has a little bit of that rallycross feel to it, with all of the gravel on the infield, and sometimes a little difficult to see exactly where the track limits are. Looks like Handwerk comfortably staying in the lead here. It's been mostly Grube and Nobinger bunched together, about half a second behind Carl Handwerk, and you wonder if Grube is starting to take it easy too, seeing that fuel gauge go down slowly and wondering if he can get an advantage in the pit stop phase with how much fuel he has to put in the car.
More the save, the better, because that means you can last longer on that said pit, so... Really, it's going to be an interesting strategy here.
Crockett in the pit right now.
Yep, Crockett's in pit road. As that's going to tell our top three another one's pitting.
We are about 1/3 of the way through this race. That could be a scheduled pit stop, or it could be just an early pit to cool down those tires. We'll have to see if these guys have to come in before the halfway point. And that will determine if this is going to end up being a multiple pit stop race.
No, it will be at least a multi-pit race, but how many is the question. So I'm expecting about 2 with if we get to half. If we don't get to half, it's going to be a 3-stopper. But if Grube and Nobinger can get it to halfway, that 2-stop may be the move.
I think if they get it to halfway, it should just be a 1-stop, right? I mean, they should be able to go
the
rest of the way.
I meant 1.
Yep.
And then if they have to pit within or before 15 minutes, it'd have to be a 2-stop. But with how much Nobinger and Grube is saving, I wouldn't be surprised if that 1-stop becomes viable.
Yeah, they may be, with as much as Nobinger was letting off and as much as they're allowing this fight to be delayed until later in the race, you have to think that they are definitely thinking fuel strategy, and making it to that 30-minute point may be the target.
Further back again for this. Actually, I think that's just, I'm looking on the track map, and I thought there was a P5 and a P6 fighting, but that was just P5 and a lap down car. P6 is just a little bit further on back. So this is our closest fight, quote unquote, technically, as in per gaps. Everybody else is a little bit spread out due to pit road reasonings, but then otherwise it is all pretty well spread out.
Yeah, we do have 4 and 5, Metler and Joe Sullivan within half a second, but that is 25 seconds now behind your lead pack.
I mean, this is certainly going to be an interesting fight, as Covert's there to help whoever he deems he wants to help. I mean, he's probably going to end up going with the lane that has the most speed at the time, as John Crane now enters pit road. But Metler's there. He can... Oh, yeah, he's coming. Metler has a chance to make the move. He's going to take a peek on the outside. Runs too high, though. Not exactly side-by-side just yet. Now is, though. Almost got him cleared by a full car length just by going into NASCAR 1 alone. Still side-by-side coming out of NASCAR 2, going into turn 7. Covert on that outside, just trying to run the normal racing line. It's the 15 is clear. But he'll have the spot, and Joseph Sullivan just trying to fight Rocket to not lose time to that 15. As looks like 76 stays in front of the 14.
And Jimmy Covert, one of those that has already pitted 3 laps ago.
As actually, I think we missed something, because Nobinger is now 15 seconds behind second. I want to see what happened here. Nobinger already not a lot of There a big gap in between him and second, coming into turn 7. Could probably guess what happens here. Locks up the rears. And grabs that inside wall. There goes, that was Crockett, but he's a lap down. Oh, and the turning radius on this car just ain't good.
Oh my goodness. Either way, if you go to the outside or the inside of that turn, you are going to be Austin Powersing it just to get back onto the infield. That's unfortunate.
It truly is. So now, no Binger. Any fuel saving strategy he had is out the window. Only one fuel saving right now is probably Joseph Sullivan and Jacob Grube in their respective positions.
Really, at this point, if the fuel strategy comes into play, I can see Jacob Grube possibly in the catbird seat. Now losing some time. Now about a second and 4/10 behind Carl Handwerk. And increasing. I'm not sure what's going on here.
He made a mistake to the final corner, so he must have overkilled his tires. At least that's what I'm getting out of this. As I think just Handwerk just grabbed the inside wall, doing the little
I heard that a little bit of scraping, trying to leave his mark. A little bit of light blue paint on that inside wall. Looks like the car is just fine though. He's just maintaining that 1.5 second gap, testing the limits of how far the draft will help. I do have a crash behind with Kevin Foster and Dan Phelps. I'm not sure if you saw that, Brennan.
I did not, and now we're gonna take a look at it entirely. The Foster running a little bit slow, otherwise it's fine. Coming through the final quarter. Oh, Phelps just spun it, and I clicked off Phelps by accident. It looks like Phelps just spun.
I guess Foster maybe was just a little slow out of the previous corner, and that registered as a crash, but he's doing just fine here. Unfortunately for Kevin Foster, he's running a bit further back in 8th right now. And he has not come into the pit yet. So Kevin Foster, the last car on track as far as order, who has not come into the pits. Christopher Hamilton all the way in front of Foster now after that early pit stop. And it does look like Grube has regained that sub 1 second gap, coming to 0.5 second as they re-enter the infield.
Does appear so. 0.5 second now turns into 4/10, but growing a little bit now. But that's just showing that Jacob has pace, that he's just not trying to push just yet. Again, because minute 27 coming to minute 28 here in 5 seconds. They're getting ever so closer to that halfway point. Really, I would be comfortable if they managed to kind of they hit the halfway point and then go like 3 laps over. Because then you know you'll be able to make it. If you pit right at the halfway mark, you push too hard, you may not have enough fuel at that end of the race. Gotta give yourself at least 2 laps after that halfway point for it to become a viable strategy. But it looks like Handwerk and Grube are trying the out of that and just see if that works.
Yeah, I agree, Brennan. You definitely want to give yourself the ability to push as hard as you can in that second stint. It may still be a viable strategy if they're only able to make it just to that 30-minute point with some extra fuel saving in the second half, but that's not really where you want to be if you want to be able to push and overtake your opponents here. Most likely, overtaking point seems to be right here as they enter back onto the infield, but also the most perilous as they keep it 1 and 2 here with Handwerk and Grube.
The turn with the most chances to make the move, but also the turn with the most chances to make the mistake that could end your race. Still sticking on to
Like-
this top 2 as really...
Looks like a tight battle between Sullivan and Collins now.
Yep,
Here they
here comes
go.
Sullivan. Only saw one car on the track now. We're like, oh yeah, they must be fine. But it
Right
looks
on
like
top of each other.
Looks like Sullivan won't have the spot until we get back to the NASCAR bits. As Hamilton's back into pit road again, might I add. So interesting stuff as Sullivan now enters
Ooh.
pit road himself.
Okay, that's pit road entry. I didn't know where he was going there. Looking at the camera, a little bit of a slow entry there, but makes it safely onto pit road as we are just hitting that halfway mark. So these guys must be hitting the point where they need fuel.
Yeah, Foster's in too. So that must be when Handwork and Group come in. So it may not be a viable enough strategy unless you want to save on that second half.
And maybe Carl Handwork was able to save even up front. We'll see. He's made it to the halfway point. Coming back on the infield, we'll see if he comes in this time.
I would like to go at least another minute, but we'll see. As Handwork's in, so
And he will
Groove
bring it in, yep.
But Groove's staying out one more. That's actually what I'd want to be doing. Groove is going to be out for that one more lap, which he's probably saved running behind Handwork.
Just like we were talking about, Brennan, Jacob Grube putting himself really in the most optimal spot here, possibly able to push more in the second half, and possibly even if he can get a good in-lap and out-lap here, giving himself a potential gap to the rest of the field. We'll see how this goes.
Looking at Handwork, I don't see any tires being replaced, so it looks like a fuel-only stop for a lot of our drivers. Metler and Collins are in too. Nobinger's yet to pit, so all the fuel saving that Nobinger did still did manage to help. He's 20 seconds back from Groove, but it appears to have at least helped in this term, so maybe this is our top 2, as our top 2 now is what it may be at the end of this race. Who knows?
So let's see, Carl Handwork still in pit lane with the car stationary.
No, that's not Carl. Carl just came out of, oh, there is a car stationary though, right there. I don't know who that is. That's Cobra just chilling middle of NASCAR 4.
Boy, something wrong with that car as he has just pulled off the racing line.
Luckily, that is not the racing line as far as this road course is concerned. But that's a dead car just chilling there. As Jacob Grube and Nobinger now come in for their pit stops. Nobinger being heavily followed by the 10 of Crockett. So they at least managed to last, I think, 2 more laps, which honestly is very good. And I just saw a green car go flying as the camera came back. I was at that. Whoever it was, it just towed. So I think it was Dan Phelps. Take a look at that. I heard crashing, and then I saw. Oh, that's the old Dan Phelps. Hang on. I see Christopher Hamilton crashed again. And Hamilton jumped to the pits. Yeah, he's dead last, not rolling. And it looks like going into turn 7. Same situation. No, locks up the fronts. Still keeps it rolling, though. It's gotta be something else to this. Oh, Hamilton grabs curves. Still fine. This is an oddly long, because I did hear crashing. Yeah, here he comes. Oh, way too hot. I knew I saw that last second. Yeah, Hamilton way too hot going into pit road. Lost the front clip. Yeah, that's gonna signify the end of Hamilton's race, because I'm sure he's already used the fast repair on the first incident.
Yeah, that's a big disappointment for Chris Hamilton tonight. Is I'm sure that may have been just throwing in the white flag, throwing in the towel on this evening, as he saw that he wasn't going to be able to get back up into the top positions, but possibly a little bit short on fuel even after that second stop, or just frustrated with the lockup there and hurting the tires. So Christopher Hamilton, with already one win in the playoffs, has no worries. And we are back to looking at your leader, Carl Handwerk, as after that pit stop, he has pulled 3 seconds on Jacob Grube. We will see if that extra lap that Grube was able to make will give him the fuel that he needs to make this fight possible by the end of this race, as he does look like he is closing very, very slowly on the 3 second gap that Hamilton has created.
But closing
Handwerk,
nonetheless.
excuse me.
Yeah, closing nonetheless. So we'll see what it is here within about 25 minutes.
Nobinger's still in third after that incident. He's got about 6 seconds in front of Brandon Mettler. So giving Mettler just a little sniff of potential podium here, as I'm sure he sees Nobinger out in front of him.
He's definitely going to be pushing here for that P3 spot, and Nobinger is definitely going to maybe start seeing that relative close here sometime soon, and may force Nobinger into another mistake that basically gives P3 to Mettler. We will see. As I see Joseph Sullivan has crashed, I think that was... Yeah, I see Sullivan has crashed. Getting a bump draft from the 72 of Collins. Collins gets off the bumper. Oh, he just spun and barely missed that wall.
Gotta wait for traffic here. Luckily, he's okay. And back.
Don't exactly know why there's that little wall there. But, sure. I mean, engineering at its finest.
Yeah, well, at least for Joe Sullivan, he did not crash it on the outside of that infield wall, because we've seen several competitors here tonight have to do a little bit Austin Powers action to get that car back through the gap.
We're going to take a look at one more replay because it says Grube went off track. That gap has grown to 6 seconds. What happened here? Got Dan Phelps in front. Looks like Phelps... it looks like Phelps did the rider thing. I mean, I don't exactly... Not exactly sure on that. Hang on.
Oh, man. He pulls off to the inside, but he's still going to be affecting at least Grube's vision here, and not quite sure if he's going to be able to make the line, and he goes just a little bit outside of it and starts to lose the back end.
Yeah, that's just kind of... I don't exactly know whose that would be on, but that made the gap grow between Handwerk and Grube to 6 seconds, which is probably too big of a gap for Grube to close.
Yeah, he'll be looking for a mistake from Handwerk now. Certainly outside of any draft range, that will need to be within that 1.5 to 2 second range at the very most. So he'll have to make it up on pure pace here, but potentially also a little bit of that fuel advantage. So if Carl Handwerk has to save it all, that might bring him back towards Jacob Grube toward the end of this race.
As unfortunately, our closest fight is Sullivan and Foster. That's 2.5 seconds. In the same camera shot as Foster coming through NASCAR 3 and 4. As John Crane back into the pits once again, with now Handwerk lapping him. Fortunately, not really much to talk about when everybody's separate. At least fight positions are separated by 2.5 seconds at minimum. So I mean, hey, Handwork doing very good right now. I mean, he's been flawless all race. Grew with a couple mistakes. He's still within that 5-second gap and closing. So still a chance here later on in this race. And that's showing that Handwork is saving as much as he can. So whether or not that gives us a fight here at the end of the race, I do not know.
So yeah, Brendan, I'd be interested to go on board with Carl Handwork and hear some of that throttle input if he's lifting and coasting.
Actually, a real idea. We're gonna go roll bar with the number 18 machine.
Still pushing hard through this infield section, it appears. We'll have to see when he gets back on the NASCAR oval, especially toward that turn 7 entrance back on the infield if he's trying to lift and save.
That's the point where you're gonna have to do it. Here the tires sliding, at least on my end, so he's not saving those tires by any means. Not exactly short shifting either, so still letting the revs go up as far as it can. Actually, the group gap has now increased to 7 seconds. So the closer group gets, the further he actually gets. So maybe that's why Handwork's saving as much as he does, because he knows that the gap between himself and group is enough. As that's about where they've been braking, a little bit of a lift and coast, but just about where they normally be. So
I don't hear much. I don't hear much there. I think that's just purely, you know, braking where he needs to get to that corner. Maybe just a little bit conservatively to make sure he keeps, you know, those rear tires in contact with the pavement and not skidding along and sending him into the tire wall. But good job there by Carl Handwork. You can see as they enter that infield section how difficult that is. You can hear the tires sliding here as well as they go through this tough little right left. And Brendan, this might be an opportunity to turn our voices down and turn these cars up a little bit. Give the folks some love to hear it.
Nice little bit of engine moment as we just watch Crockett go through the gravel, but as race fans, hearing engines are just kind of like euphoria to most of us. I mean, can't get a much better sound than that.
A little bit of your weekend relaxation noises on for your Sunday evening.
Well, what I need to do is take an NASCAR engines and just make a 12-hour loop. And there's my white noise.
That's right. My wife would agree that would be a noise to put her to sleepy land, but for us race fans, we are looking for some action here, as the closest battle on track is actually between the leader Carl Hanwerk and Jacob Grube, even though that is just over 4 seconds at this point with just 12 minutes to go.
At 4.1, but that has closed since we went into the left here and then it has came back. It has closed, so we may have a fight on our hands on the final laps of this race, as the gap's now 3.9 seconds. So far I'm seeing a rate of about a tenth a lap, which wouldn't be enough, but Grube is definitely closing and trying to quick.
We need the car will catch in X many laps graphic, but we definitely are seeing that interval go down slowly, as it was over 6 seconds probably 5 or 6 laps ago. So approaching 10 minutes in this race, that will be 6-7 laps left. You figure he's going to have to make up more than half a second a lap to make this thing viable by the end to catch Carl Hanwerk. Maybe a little bit less as he catches the draft back on the NASCAR part of the track. So we'll see what happens here.
Looking at the lap times here, Grube is there's a moment here where he's almost a second a lap faster, but most of the time he's about 0.5 to 0.3 of a second faster, just based off your lap times from Carl Hanwerk. So based off that, Grube has enough time. Let's see, this lap, yep, 4.32, or no, 0.432 tenths of a second faster. The Grube's closing, and he just said his personal best lap time too for the race, so those tires are good, and he is rolling with those tires. We're not sure about Carl, as obviously this car can put up 122 force, but Carl's only putting up 122.
And that is about half a second that Jacob Grube's had on Carl Hanwerk for the last 5 laps here. So we'll see if that can continue. Very much in the range where it could be a battle here at the end. So we're going to have to keep watching here, Brendan. It's going to get interesting.
Also try to keep in mind that Carl Hanwerk, at least as far as we're aware, may need at least one more pit stop. If that was the case on halfway, had to be their stop. But we know Grube can make it. Not exactly sure about Hanwerk.
See Brandon Mettler also on the same strategy as Carl Hanwerk, pitted the same lap. Joseph Sullivan pit 1 lap sooner, so he may be having to save fuel here. Caleb Collins pit the same lap as Carl Hanwerk. Grube and Nobinger were able to save some in that first stint, following behind Carl Hanwerk in the lead pack, and they pit 1 lap later. That interval down to 3 seconds now. 9 minutes remaining.
And still closing, but now Hanwerk has a draft to a car in front that I believe is Jimmy Covert. So he'll have a little bit of draft, but we'll see.
Covert running without the front clip on that spec racer. We saw Covert pulling off the racing line earlier. Maybe some computer problems or mechanical problems for that number 14. Several laps down this race as we see Kevin Foster sitting in the entry there. We'll see if... Ooh, he's making it tough for Hanwerk. gets around him, but probably lost a little bit of time there getting around Kevin Foster, who was slow back on the entry of the infield.
Yeah, gap is now 2.2. That lost some time, valuable time at that for handwork.
There you can see from the roll bar cam of Jacob Grube, you can see that light blue car of Carl Handwerk just a little bit out in front of him as he gets the draft from two of these lap cars, hoping to do a little teamwork here with Kevin Foster. And we'll see if Foster is gentle to him as they get back onto the NASCAR part of the track. A little bit of bump drafting going on. Is Foster going to let him by as they get back onto the infield?
Maybe, because then if Foster can hold, then he can push Grube, but then also if Foster doesn't trust himself, Grube to the outside. Can't exactly see, but yeah, Foster gives the spot.
Yeah, smart move from Foster there. He'll look to try to tuck in behind Jacob Grube. Has not quite had the pace of the leaders here, though. But now it's getting really interesting here. We're down to 1.1 second interval. You can see how much tighter of a line there Jacob Grube is able to take back onto this front straight, gaining about 1/10 of a second there in the straight and the subsequent corner. A little bit of a lockup there from Handwerk. Carl is definitely going to be feeling the pressure now. 5 minutes left in this race. Probably 4 laps at the least left.
At about a minute 22 a lap, minute 23, depending on which driver you're trying to talk about. Yeah, that's about how many laps we have left in this race. Obviously, the time is what truly matters, but we can at least get an estimate on lap times.
Ooh, is that crane locking up in front of Handwerk and going way wide? Handwerk back onto the infield, now with 9/10 gap.
It's within a second, so Grube has the draft. This is gonna be it, folks. It's gonna be all Handwerk and Grube, but then also again, does Handwerk have the fuel to make it? He can't pit now. He kind of has to run this out. If he runs out of fuel, he runs out of fuel. Already has his win from Rockingham last week, so not really under pressure, but definitely would want to pad the stats a little bit, try and gain a little bit more.
Yeah, the only thing Handwerk could do here if he's struggling for fuel is kind of allow Grube to come by at an opportune point and then hold on to the draft and stay right in his back bumper to get the least amount of air on that front end as possible. But it looks like he is going to be going for it here, as there is no such letting off for Carl Handwerk. But that gap is down to 3/10 and closing fast.
And closing has the draft coming down. NASCAR back. Shouldn't make the move coming into 7 this time. Grube will have to wait at least one more lap to get it done into 7. But what's to say he can't get it done earlier? I mean, we've seen him make the moves on the outside when needed. So, we'll wait see how it will work. As 3/10 is the gap now coming through the final 2 corners of the lap.
And here is where the start-finish line is for this little road course, right next to the pit wall here, as they will make 2 more turns and back onto the oval. Got a lap car here on the outside.
As Dan Phelps look, Handwerk trying to get draft. Going straight to that wall. Groove does not have the inside. But that just shows how much field saving Handwork's trying to do. As he went way off the racing line. Try and get some fuel to get some draft to feel safe from that 85. So that just shows that Handwork is close. Groove just has to get to him.
Well, he didn't just fuel save there. He actually was able to pull more of a gap on Jacob Groove with that little draft move on the outside from with Dan Phelps.
As Phelps no longer an issue as he lets them by, so Handwork no more draft opportunity. It is all a driver skill from here on out.
Here they go across the start-finish line. There will be, I believe, 2 to go.
No flag from Barney just yet, so at least 2 to go. If that's the case, Groove's got to start picking up some time because now the gap's increased to 9/10 of a second. And I'm pretty sure it's increased on that last half of the previous lap. Still within the draft, but he's got to make it work coming around for the final lap next time by.
Carl Handwork sniffing maybe just a little bit of draft from Caleb Collins out in front of him by a couple of seconds too much to make a difference right now. And so I expect Groove to be making up some time here. He's got to be close. He's not going to be able to get by, of course, this lap. But he wants to make it happen into the last lap of this race.
He's got to get there and stay there. Got to hold that 4/10 until this next time by. If it is truly the white flag, at least next time by.
I believe this should be the white flag, Brennan.
It should be. We're within the minute.
And I do see the white flag here.
Going around for party for confirmation. Yes, it is white flag out here for Las Vegas here. The SSCA's on the combined track. Handwork trying to do all that he can to hold the lead, sliding the rears.
That was a big slide there onto this entry, and that allowed Groove. He's right on the bumper and with some momentum. This may actually work out better for Handwork, though, because if he gets past him early on this NASCAR part of the track, he can get back on him, and Groove's just going to push him until the opportune moment.
And that opportune moment's going to be somewhere in turn 7. This is how it's been all race. Try and get a run off of NASCAR 2 to just pick the line that's open. Handwork maybe defending the bottom like hell coming into 7. Groove's going to have to run. Crossover down. Barely on the white line, but he has the inside. 95 to the inside. Handwork barely has the line. No contact with a little bit of slide from 95.
Oh, that might be enough for Handwork. I think he's going to make this work.
Carl. Jacob Groove needs to send in the final 2 quarters. Has the draft. Can if he wants to. Not going to do it, though, unless if he gets a send onto the bumper. It's still, we got to get a bump and run. He's getting close.
Oh, he's got side-by-side contact.
Who's it going to be?
Run to the line. I don't know. I can't tell. Handwork.
SCCA is showing Handwork by 100th of a second.
Holy cow, what a finish. By 19 hundredths of a second. With a lunge into the last corner, he managed to get a nose in. There was a little bit of contact. Both cars able to keep it straight across the line. What a race, Brendan.
That was truly a race. As for the rest of our finishers, Crockett, he's going to finish in 8th. Sullivan's going to come around for 4th. And Handwork celebrating like it's NASCAR on the front straight. Carl, that's the wrong straight, buddy. But this line will count. Oh, because there's a flagman being waved here too. All right.
Burning it down on the not start finish line here. Well deserved for Carl Handwork, as that was a fight for the victory here tonight.
Still waiting on Caleb Collins to finish his lap for the official results to come up. But we got your top three. It's Handwork, Groove, and Nobinger. Hey, I called it back when there was still strain in the first stint in the race. As now the official results should be up here, and yes, they are. Gonna pull them up here. Carl Handwork with the W officially by this race results 0.015 of a second over the 95 of Jacob Grube. John Nobinger in P3, Brandon Metler in 4th, Joseph Sullivan in P5, Caleb Collins in P6, Matt Crockett in P7, Kevin Foster in P8. John Crane in 9th, Dan Phelps in 10th, Jimmy Covert in 11th, and your only DNF, Christopher Hamilton, in P number 12. As everybody's in the broadcast waiting room, David, I'm going to let you take our number P3 finisher of John Nobinger.
Good one. Yep.
Hey, John, this is David and Brendan in the booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I got a copy.
All right, well, John, a good race tonight. That first stint, keeping that 3-car pack going once Christopher Hamilton caught the tires. But then a little bit of a misfortune yourself on that entry back into the infield where a lot of folks had trouble tonight. Tell us a little bit more about some of the challenges of driving this car and just that section of the track.
Yeah, it was... I was just sitting there kind of saving fuel, making sure I'd have plenty to get to the end, and kind of hoping that if we left Carl out front, that Jacob and I could wind up doing one more lap and actually start pushing him, or maybe 2 more, and get 2 good push laps in to break the draft with Carl. But I just wound up... I caught him a little quicker than I expected into turn, was that 2 or 3? And had to get on the brakes. It slid a little, and that let them kind of break the gap. And I tried to catch too much coming into the infield there and spun it. So,
yeah, you weren't the only one. You were not the only one having trouble with that entry from the high-speed portion of the track back onto the, the dual walls lining the edge of the track. And really, if you got off track at all there, you were really having trouble getting it back between the walls. So, regardless, though, tonight, a P3 finish tonight. You got to be happy with that. And you will be going on to the next rounds of the playoffs, I'm sure. You have anything for these guys in the next round?
Well, I won't be here next week. I'll be down in Miami for the Formula One race. So what am I missing for that? It'll be
Richmond's with the Mustangs, the FSR 500s.
That one. That would have been an interesting one, but it's also not one that I would hate to miss. The New Hampshire road with the GR86s will be a lot more fun. So,
yeah, well,
something in that one.
Hopefully, you'll be able to have a good showing in the GR86 at New Hampshire. Well, anyone that you want to give thanks to before we let you on out here tonight?
Mainly, you and Brendan there in the booth for doing our broadcast. Carl for keeping this league together, and just everybody that came out. Everybody drove well, and I know give a little shout out for Chris. I know he had just some bad luck all around tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. We appreciate that, John, and we will let you get on your way. And congrats again for the podium finish.
All right, see ya.
That was the P3 finisher of John Nobinger, who, outside of the mistakes he made in this race, still came home with a very respectable P3. We're going to bring in our second place, Jacob Grube. This is Brandon and Dave in the broadcast booth. You got a copy?
Hey, I got you guys.
Well, for the first stint of the race where Carl Nobinger and yourself was in your little draft pack trying to save some fuel, obviously it worked, because you guys managed to at least get one full extra lap, and you were able to put pressure on Handwork at the end of that. That definitely worked out well, and outside of the mistakes he made, some mistakes on the second stint after the pit stop, you still managed to close the gap up and give us one great finish. What was the strategy there outside of just trying to get as much fuel as that tank as possible?
Yeah, just trying to save the fuel. Trying to save the fuel in that first stint, and then I came out. I was still farther behind Carl than I had anticipated. So at that point, I was thinking, well, I just got to close the gap, get back up to Carl, and then honestly, I always felt like it was going to come down to the last lap on that hairpin coming off the banking. I just knew it was always going to come down to that because of the draft and how strong it is on these cars. You're really not going to get away from each other. So the end of the race kind of played out like I thought it would, with a real close battle at the end. Fortunately, I just couldn't get a good run out of that last corner, but congratulations to Carl. That was a good race.
I mean, certainly, you got to the inside of Carl going into turn 7 on the final lap, and then just didn't look like you had the greatest run coming off of it that allowed Carl to get that run on the outside. And then you managed to give him a bumper going through the final corner, and then you two were separated by 1/100th of a second. And I couldn't even tell who finished until I looked on SDK and be like, yep, that was Handworks by 100th. So, definitely a finish for the record books here tonight, as it was a very interesting one considering 5 laps beforehand you were 2 seconds back. So, again, good race, good second. Is there anybody you'd like to thank on that number 95?
No, I just want to thank you guys for putting this on. This combo, the spec racer at this configuration of track is something I would never try. So I'm just grateful for the series. It's fun. Thanks for everybody coming out. It's a good race. Thank you guys.
Well, thank you again for coming. Hopefully we'll see you next week with the Mustangs at Richmond. That's certainly going to be interesting. A little bit of a looser car at an oval race, so we'll see how that turns out. Hopefully we'll see you then.
Yeah, for sure.
That was our P2 of Jacob Grube and David. Since technically you got Nobinger, you also get our winner of Carl Handwork.
All right. Well, Carl, we're doing good up here. How are you doing down there?
A little sweaty, a little sore after that one, but man, that was not what I was expecting at all. I will take that 10 times out of 10. That was, I'm still a little shell shocked on that one. I mean, I clearly wasn't the fastest car out there, but as we've seen before, the fast car doesn't always win.
Well, that is true. The fastest car does not always win. There was some bad luck or just some misfortune for Christopher Hamilton coming back onto the infield. Those tire walls seem to reach out and grab people. Not the only one with that issue tonight, but regardless, here at the end of the race, you managed to put it across the finish line by a nose, 1/100th of a second in front of Jacob Grube. Tell us more about that last corner and just the mindset that you had coming off of it.
Well, once I held him off with our little battle into, I don't know what turn it is, the turn going into the infield there. I knew he was going to go to the inside of me, and that's why I tried to pinch him down as far as I could to make him think that I wasn't going to give him any room. But that's not how I race. I had to give him at least room to get through that corner, but that was sketchy as all to get through that corner. And once I held him off there, I feel like that's the main and maybe the only place that he was gaining time on me. But then all of a sudden, I don't know if I got overexcited for holding him off there or what, but just kind of lost talent through the little S turn there. Let him gain on me again, so I knew I needed to kind of slow up a little bit through the long sweeping hairpin and try and keep it to the inside, but he still was able to get to the bumper and get me a little loose. And as soon as he got the side of me, I'm like, don't tell me the side draft is going to end up doing it for him. And whew, 10 feet further, and I'm in second place right now.
Oh man, you're not kidding. Maybe less than 10 feet. I mean, it was. I'll give you a screenshot here, but it was certainly interesting at the finish.
I want to take my checker flag. I want to go home. I don't want to see it again.
Well, that is 2 in a row for you, and that's some good momentum here headed into the second round of the playoffs. I mean, looking to really push for another championship here in the Premier League, and maybe the last one for a little while. Tell us what it means to you to compete in this league.
Well, it's really just it's fun. It's fun getting out here with these different combos every week and really kind of testing your mettle. And tonight, this was something that nobody has ever touched before. Some people didn't even know Las Vegas had an infield track. So this was a first for a lot of people, and that's kind of what Premier was built on, trying all the different things that iRacing has. Because there's so many times that you'll race at a Las Vegas, you don't know it has an infield track, or New Hampshire, not knowing that thing has a road course as well. And there's for some, you had to buy the track, if you never ran on Las Vegas before, things like that, or other tracks. And a lot of people throughout the Premier career had to spend quite a bit of money to get some of these tracks. But once you have them, you have them. And there's so many different variations of all these tracks on iRacing that are absolutely never touched. I mean, I'd look at Texas. I mean, there's 5 or 6 different road course configurations on the infield. And we've done 1 or 2, I think, in the D series or something like that. But other than that, they're never touched. They're never on any iRacing official calendar or anything like that. And that's kind of what we've done in Premier, is not just test everybody throughout all the different disciplines, but on some weird combinations that you've never done before. And it really either brings out the best of you, or you realize you need some work. And it's been fun through all these seasons, all these years racing with a lot of these guys. Made some good friendships, and been some really good racers come through the Premier Series. And I'm proud to be towards the top of that. It certainly was not easy, and finish out in this season and trying to go for championship number 6 is definitely not going to be easy either.
It's not easy anytime that you bring that car into the Premier Series playoffs. It's always going to be an interesting combination. It's going to be something where you didn't run it 12 times during the week in an official race. No one's getting that advantage, and that's what we enjoy about Premier. And we hope that you all out there, the fans, enjoy seeing it as well, as these guys will compete for Premier Series championship here this month and next. So I hope you guys check that out. Before you get out of here, Carl, anyone that you want to thank on that 18 machine?
Yeah, as always, I want to thank the guys that came out here tonight. I know it was a little rough for some, just like usual, getting used to this funky car on this funky track. But I think a lot of guys kind of surprised themselves at what they can do out here tonight. So thank you to everybody that came out tonight. Thank you to you guys up there in the booth holding it down and putting the show out there for all our fans, because it's not easy. And I'm sure that tonight, other than the little finish, but we had a bookmark it. I mean, I took it 4 wide on lap number 1.
Yeah.
I had to finish it with a little bit of flair too. But
we saw 4 wide and also saw death.
Yeah, exactly, multiple times. Thank you to all the fans out there for watching. I know Barry was out there watching as usual. Yeah, it's been a fun ride so far, and I mean, tale of 2 different stories for me between the regular season and the playoffs. It's coming at the right time, I guess.
That's right, coming at the right time for you, and we hope for your sake it continues, and we hope for the audience sake it's going to be just as interesting as it was at the end tonight. So thank you. We'll let you get on your way, and good luck next week.
All right, thanks, boys.
That was our winner of Carl Handwerk, who gets it done by 1/100th of a second. Definitely one of our closer finishes we've had here in Premier Series, outside of the one MX5 race that is glued into my head when you guys had the MX5 Volvo race championship night, and then y'all top 2 was separated by, I believe it was like zeros. I don't even think iRacing went down to the 10,000 of a number, but that's what it was determined by. But for the rest of our core series here tonight, tomorrow night, it's the MX5 series. They are going to VIR North Legacy in the MX5s. Obviously, Christopher Hamilton will be there, as he's a MX5 enthusiast. So expect him there, as that's actually going to be a really fun car track combo. Tuesday, the Core Xfinity Series goes to Dover, where they went in real life last week, is where they go to this week for the Xfinity Series here on Core. Again, that's certainly going to be an interesting one. From what I've heard, the Xfinity race was interesting in real life. if there even was one. I don't remember. But I heard it was interesting, so I'm expecting the same here on Tuesday. Thursday night is the Core GT series, again with the GTPs and the GT3s. They are, I believe, taking... That's not an off week. They are going to Sebring at the beginning of May, on May 2nd. So Sebring, obviously, with the Sebring 12 just happening, lots of guys, their racing line is hopefully still engraved in their own heads. And coming back next Sunday, Richmond with the Mustang FR500S Road Mustang doing some mobile racing next week for the start of round 2 for the Core Premier Series playoffs. Davis, any other notes you'd want to have? Because there's certainly a lot to unpack from this race.
Well, exciting beginning, exciting end, bookended in the middle with a little bit of strategy on the fuel that we were commenting on. Some of these guys, like Carl said, this was a new combination and just something they were looking to see what they could do out there. Not something they're going to get practice in officials or anything like that. So always fun to see a little bit of a new challenge for everyone. And I think we, as you saw at the end, we had some great racing, and that's all we can hope for every week.
Yeah, that's certainly something we need to hope, and certainly nothing that we would be sad about. That's going to do it for us, me and David here tonight. I've been your host, Brendan Polt. We'll see you guys next week for Richmond with the FR500s. Until then, good night.